call, if you're listening on this podcast and you're not willing to learn the math behind, doing, profitable quotes and really being passionate about making the most amount of profit for your business as possible, maximizing the amount of profit, then you probably should get off this podcast, okay? Now, if you're an entrepreneur that's a contractor and you're serious about getting your profits to pay for your freedom, that means making more and more profits so that you can, afford to hire people, making more and more profits so that you can actually, use those for good, like taking your family on a vacation, being able to take that extra time that you got from hiring people because you could afford them and you could afford to pay them more than what the market share, was paying, so that you're like the top dollar contractor in the area, then you come to the right place. Okay. So what I want to do today is I want to get you to understand what you have to consider when you're going to go and price a job. Now, I'm going to cover off a lot of things. Okay. With that being said, I don't want you to get too overwhelmed. Okay. I want you to, as we go through this, what I want you to walk away with is just picking one of these areas that resonates the most with you and working on that.
Until right now, this very moment, contractors have always been on their own, not as tradespeople, but being alone and knowing how to take their business to the next level. They call us working class. They call us blue collar. They say that we don't have the smarts to become the business owner that we're meant to be. That is such bullshit. You have the ability. You're more than any of that. The question really is, where do you get the insights that you need specific to contracting to systemize your business so you can get your profits to pay for your freedom? I'm Andrew Houston. I'm going to show you how to make more profits, how to get more control, how to get more freedom in the simplest, quickest way possible without any of that bullshit. Welcome to the No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. Listen up, level up, and if you learn something, like the video, subscribe to the channel, change your business, change your life.
All right, rock stars, welcome to another No Bullshit Podcast for Contractors. Today is a great day to eliminate the bullshit in pricing. I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna give you a bit of a warning, that what I'm about to go through with you guys right now regarding pricing, it might be, let's just say, a bit of an eye opener. Pricing, as we all know, it's part of our business. It's one of the most critical aspects of our business. And with that being said, if we don't get it right, there's massive, massive consequences. The reality is that, and I'm going to be straight up with you, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and then we're going to get into some hard ass, no bullshit reality, is that nobody has really shown you how to price profitably. Properly or profitably. Okay? They go hand in hand. So it's one of those things, as contractors, that in all reality that we struggle with. Usually anything to deal with math. And the reality of that is because, especially with math, if you don't have the right formula, it doesn't have any mercy. Right? The formula doesn't give a shit about you. The formula has no emotion tagged to your business. If you're using the wrong numbers, those numbers don't care. They're not a living, breathing entity. Okay? They're just a thing. So there's no mercy. And when it comes to business, when it comes to being a profitable contractor, when it comes to, you think about this, like, out of all the names that I could have picked, out of all the names, think of it, hundreds of thousands of different names I could have came up with for this company. But what did I call it? I called it Profit for Contractors. Now I see a lot of people, a lot of people trying to do what we do, taking our name and utilizing it. But whatever, man. I think greatness, a sign of greatness is others trying to copy you, right? But when it comes to your business, that's one of the core reasons why I called the company, what I called it, Profit for Contractors. Because truly, if you do this right, and you can do it right, okay, you can get this stuff. Okay. If you're listening to this podcast, if you're, listening in on this live, you can learn this. Okay. I've learned it. Thousands and thousands of contractors before you have learned the things I'm going to be going through today. And it is something that you have to learn. If you're on this call, if you're listening on this podcast, and you're not willing to learn the math behind, doing, profitable quotes, and really being passionate about making the most amount of profit for your business as possible, maximizing the amount of profit, then you probably should get off this podcast. Okay. Now, if you're an entrepreneur that's a contractor and you're serious about getting your profits to pay for your freedom, that means making more and more profit so that you can, afford to hire people, making more and more profit so that you can actually, use those for good, like taking your family on a vacation, like, being able to take that extra time that you got from hiring people because you could afford them and you could afford to pay them more than what the market share, was paying, so that you're like the top dollar contractor in the area, then you come to the right place. Okay. So what I want to do today is I want to get you to understand what you have to consider when you're going to go and price a job. Now, I'm going to cover off a lot of things. Okay. With that being said, I don't want you to get too overwhelmed. Okay. I want you to, as we go through this, what I want you to walk away with is just picking one of these areas that resonates the most with you and working on that. Okay. So I want to be fair with this. It is overwhelming sometimes learning new things. And especially when it comes to math, I'm not going to get heavy into the equations behind it so much as what I want you to consider, because there's multiple different aspects of math that have to be looked at. I want to make sure that you guys understand what needs to be included, why it needs to be included, and how you can apply it so that you can be profitable when you're quoting your jobs. Okay. So if that sounds like a plan, which I think it is, I'm just talking to myself because nobody's on here with me. And guess what? Let's rock and roll. So here we go. When we go to, I'm going to try and work it from the biggest. Well, we're going to create the list. I might go in the order of what are the things that are going to have the biggest impact on you being profitable or not. But what we'll do is after we finish off this list of items, then what I'll do is I'll try and prioritize them for you. Some of them might be equal. Some of these items, are going to be different for different contractors. And what do I mean by that? Depending upon where you're at, depending upon what you're doing, depending upon what you've already got working, maybe some of these things you've already got into play, well, then you're not going to be focusing on those areas. Okay, so let's do this, okay? So our major focus here is to price. Whoops, got to come down a bit on my screen. Our job today is to make sure that we are want to price profitably. Okay. So when we look at pricing profitably, one of the biggest things that we have to look at when pricing our jobs, okay, is we have to make sure that we include, and this is probably this is the biggest factor. I'm not going to say it's maybe one. It is for sure the biggest factor of impact on you being profitable. It's not the only one, but it's the biggest. Okay. When we look at pricing our jobs, say for example, we're going to look at, pricing a job. We have to understand what our baseline is. So if we were to look at this like a graph, okay? Actually, I'll do this graph maybe over here. We're to look at this like a graph. Okay? My drawings are not fucking the best, but hopefully they're good enough that it gets the point across. We have this dotted line. And that dotted line, what does that dotted line represent? That dotted line represents a zero. Okay? A zero what? A zero in profits. Now your accountant and your bookkeeper, and if you do not know this number, you do not know this term that I'm about to tell you, I'm not shitting you. Being profitable goes way beyond just math, and it goes way beyond just, specific aspects of your business, like let's call it tactics, okay? It also has got heavily to do with people, okay? We'll get to that in a second, okay? But this zero line, we need to know. And that is called, in the accounting realm, that's called let me get a better B. That is called, your break even. Now, what does break even means? It means you break even. It means that you do all this work, okay? Say you were a mason and you ended up building this wall that you can see right now, this brick wall. You did all this fucking work, put in all this time, you bought all this material, and at the end of the day, you end up just breaking even. Well, that's not necessarily the term that we're talking about. When we talk about break even, we're talking about what expenses do you have that you've got to pay for? And I'm trying to bring this down to layman's terms so that you guys can understand this, because so many times your freaking accountants and your bookkeepers and these other people, maybe I am going to offend them. I was going to say no offense. Fuck, maybe I am offending them. And guess what? Too fucking bad. Is that, they use terminology that we can't understand. How many of you guys, you sit down once a goddamn year and you sit down with your accountant, which by the way is bullshit. You sit down once a year with your accountant and they go through your profit and loss statement, your balance, debited this, credited this, and you're sitting there like deer in the fucking headlights going down and, back home. And you're like, you look at your partner and you go, I'm more lost than I was going into this meeting, right? So here's the thing. I'm trying to make this into layman's terms, all right? So when we're looking at layman's terms, your break-even point, everybody pay close attention to this. Your break-even point is how much, okay, you have got to bring into the business to break even in paying for your fixed expenses, okay? That means otherwise known as your overhead. So let's talk about what are some of those things. These are expenses that no matter what happens, okay, that you've got to pay them. In other words, no matter if you get a sale, it's fixed, right? Like your hydro bill, like your bell bill, like your freaking lease. Those expenses that whether or not you get another freaking job or pick up another, another contract, okay? They don't care. Those things need to be paid, whether or not you're freaking busy with your crews or not, okay? They're called fixed because regardless of what happens in your business, those things are fixed expenses. They're sort of locked in. You've got to pay this much every single month, okay? And those are expenses that are critical to include in how you price your jobs. Because if you do not include all these fixed expenses, okay? And when you do a job, and all that you include in your quote is just the material cost and the labor cost, okay? If that's all that you include in your quote, guess what you didn't include? You didn't include all those fucking expenses as a percentage to be able to keep the freaking lights on. And this kills most contractors. This is one of the biggest factors that keeps contractors broken into poverty. Okay, and we got to stop this today. So you need to know what your fixed expenses are. And here's the other conundrum. Is we go and we have breakfast with our buddies, our fellow freaking contractors. And how do we base our pricing? We base our pricing on sitting at the goddamn breakfast table, having a piece of bacon going, hey, Jimmy, how much do you put in your quotes? Oh, man, I put like 35% on my quotes. Yeah, okay, that's what I'm going to do as well. Big freaking problem. Why? Jimmy's expenses are not going to be the same as your expenses. Jimmy might have, 3 guys working for him. Okay, you might have 5 guys working for you, and you've got 5 trucks, and he's only got 3 trucks. He's got maybe, 1 or 2 leases. You got 5 leases. So, you got a bigger shop. You got more hydro, right? You got more expenses. You need to include these expenses, okay? And you need to figure out what your break-even point is. So, remember I said I wasn't going to show you any formulas? I'm going to show you this one formula, okay? So here we go. The one formula that we got to talk about or share with you today is this, is that your break-even is equal to, okay, your sales divided by your fixed expenses. Okay. So let's say, for example, oh, maybe I've got this flipped. Uh-oh. Okay, let me just do a little calculation here. Let me just give you a little tiny example. Let's say, for example, that we had our sales of, I'm going to flip this formula in just a second. Say, for example, we just put some numbers in. Our sales are $500,000, okay? And our fixed expenses are $100,000, right? So, let's get this figured out for you. Okay. So, okay, let me make my little change. Sorry. We all make little errors here, okay? Especially when it comes to formulas. Even I have to constantly have these formulas at my fingertips, and I didn't put them to my fingertips, so sometimes we get confused with them, right? So, we're all human. So say, for example, we had $100,000. Watch this, guys. This is crazy. $100K in fixed expenses. And the business did $500K in sales. This might blow you away. Imagine you've got a contractor, and all that he puts on his on his quotes, okay, is like 20%, right? Oh, it's competitive. I got to land work, got to keep the guys busy. I'm just going to put 20 points on it. If anybody's taken their calculator and figured this out, I don't know if you can see this. That says 20. That means that you would have to put 20% on your quotes just to break even. Just to get 0 on the scoreboard. Guys, team, this is one of the most critical aspects of it. Okay, now I got to keep going because there's other areas. But again, if you don't know what your break even is, okay, I'm going to come back to the accountants and bookkeepers. If your accountant and your bookkeeper has not explained to you what your break even is, if they haven't, told you the fact of that into your pricing and into how you quote your jobs, I am seriously, and I know there's a lot of spouses that do the bookkeeping. I'm sorry, I've got to tell you, you got to go and get some training, or you've got to fire yourself when it comes to this part of the business, because if you have not been teaching to the business and sharing with the business what the break-even point is and what percentage you need to be putting on your quotes to cover your overhead expenses, otherwise known as fixed expenses, you've been basically quoting and putting yourself at risk of quoting into poverty. Okay? So guys, you've got to know your break-even. Figure out your fixed expenses. You can get that from your profit and loss statement. If you have I'm sure you got an accountant or a bookkeeper, put them to the test and say, what's my freaking break-even? Show me how you calculated it, okay? And no offense, like, get them to do their job. So that would be number 1, okay? Now I'm going to talk about a couple of other things. But Andrew, this is it. This is all I need. Is it? Let's see if there's other aspects of being profitable when we're quoting jobs. Let's see. I'm going to give an additional list, okay? Here we go. Efficiency of your crews. You're like, what? Yeah. You know it. I know it. Your different crews have different efficiencies. Do you know how efficient they are? Well, what do you mean? Do you know how one, performs against the other? If you don't know that and you're quoting a job, okay? And I know it's not going to be always easy, and Andrew, there's no magic wand, and it might be difficult, Andrew, to sometimes figure this out as to which crews are going to go into what job, but you've got to do your best and think of those kind of things. Sorry, so that you can proactively put the right crews on the right jobs on the right type of work. Because I will tell you this. Let's say I use the mason. I'm going to use now an electrical contractor. Let's say you got a guy. Let's go with one of the most baseline. I'm not putting it down. I'm just saying baseline applications for an electrical contractor. Residential. Okay, wiring a home. Okay, I'm not talking about building an automation line. Wiring a home. So you got your 200 amp service, right? You follow me, right? You got your rough in, right? You got your finish, right? And final inspection, right? You guys follow me. And a lot of trades, there's some similarities to the different phases. Imagine if you got a crew who sucks. Okay, you send them out, and you send crews out, and they do the service, right? Not only do they do the service, they do the roughing, they do the finishing. Well, what if, because I used to have an electrical contracting business, what if there's guys that are absolutely amazing at putting in 200 amp services, but they suck at doing roughings? Or what happens if it's a flip? But like I said, they're shitty at and inefficient at putting in a 200 amp service, but yet they're really, really good at doing roughings. Guys, this is profit. This is money. So you got to know the efficiency of your crews. So you're putting your crews and you're factoring in when you're quoting a job. What does this have to do with quoting a job? If you are not factoring in the efficiency of your crews into how you quote, then you're not quoting efficiently. I'll say it again. If you are not factoring in the efficiency of your crews, then you are not quoting efficiently. Because you're not factoring in that delta of performance between one crew and the next crew. Because, listen, if we're not factoring in the extra hours it's going to take for the crew that's slower, then who's going to pay that fucking cost? You. And that profit comes out of your profit. Your pocket, right? Your pocket of profit, baby. Okay? It's either the pocket of profit or it's the pocket of poverty. And it's really a choice today, right? So, efficiency of crews. Bingo. Okay, next. Now, some of you guys use subs, right? Subcontractors. So, it's also the efficiency of the subs. You've got to factor this in. Okay? Next. We talk about different types of work. And this is the one thing, okay? I got to tell you. This is fucking crazy. And I know maybe you're getting a little bit overwhelmed right now. I hope not, okay? We got a few more to go, and there's a lot more than just a few more. But I'm just going to focus on the core ones. How many times do you guys, when you got your contracting business, how many of you guys go and use the same quoting process, the same multiplier, whether or not it's a service call, whether or not it's a small job, whether or not it's a medium job, whether it's a large job, whether or not it's a different type of job, more complex job? Guys, big red flag. I know it and you know it, that the different types of work that you do has different levels of efficiency. So we're looking at the efficiency of the different types. You do not quote service calls the same way that you quote larger jobs. You do not quote, smaller jobs the same way as you do larger jobs. You need to factor in different aspects of percentage. Now, why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. Now, this is getting a little bit deep. I got to be careful. I don't want to lose you because we bring it back to our break even. Let's say you've got a service department, and let's say that you've got a construction department. You can actually break out what the break-even point is. In other words, what the fixed expenses are separately for the service crews, right? And department, i.e., the service trucks, there's like 2 service trucks, there's 2 guys on it, basically takes up, 20% of our admin person's time. You can figure out what the fixed expenses are for that type of work. And notice how that's very different than construction department, which has got like maybe 20 trucks or 5 trucks and a much bigger team and a much bigger overhead. This is crucial to figure out. And it's going to be what? Is it going to be the same for every single one of you? No, it's going to be different. This is the difference between becoming a champion CEO, okay? A champion CEO at pricing your jobs profitably, getting your profits to pay for your freedom, versus just some guy that's a contractor that is got a job of a business which is stands for just over broke. I call it, it's like he's got a whole bunch of jobs, which is just over broke, stupid. Okay, I'm being harsh here, but man, if you don't take this stuff and apply it, then guess what? You're stupid. You got ignorance tax. So, efficiency of crews, efficiency of subs, efficiency of different types, with specific break-evens for each of those different types. Okay? Now, what else is there? What about cycles of seasons? You're like, what are you factoring in here in Canada, guys? Okay? I hate to tell you, if you're pricing your jobs the same way you do in the summertime as you do the wintertime, and it's outside work, holy shit, we got a problem. I will tell you right now, I can guarantee you, guys do not work as fast in the cold. Things are way more inefficient during the wintertime. You've got snow, you got challenges, you've got all these different, traffic, right? You got, more risk of accidents. If you don't factor in the cycles of the seasons of your business to know, like imagine my dad, right, with a farm. Imagine his efficiency of us getting hay, bringing it to the barn in fucking 3 feet of snow versus bringing hay into the barn and there's no snow. Yeah, it takes more time, takes more energy, takes more, effort. It costs you as the business owner more, so you need to charge for that. Now, there's a bunch more. I'm going to leave with this last one. Are you ready for it? Charging for your quotes. You're like, what? You got to charge for your quotes. Your time is valuable, okay? When we start with our champion CEOs, one of the factors that we look at is charging for, getting a better understanding of the value of somebody's time, especially the CEO and the owner of the company. Charging for your quotes, guys. You don't factor that in. And it's not that difficult. When you take that fixed expenses, okay? If you added like a salary over here, a salary of an estimator, you can actually factor that into your fixed expenses. And what does that do in this formula? That allows us then to factor in what our new break even is going to be, that we got to add onto our quotes. Maybe it's an extra 1%. Maybe it's an extra 2%. Okay? That we got to factor in to our quotes to make sure that we are getting paid for the time that we take to do quotes. Okay? Now, your prospects, I'm going to tell you right now, won't even notice it. But guess what? Your bank account, okay, is going to notice it. Your profits are going to notice it. And in the big picture, you're going to notice it, but you just won't know where the hell where did it go, okay? Value your time and your team's time. Okay, I'm going to give you one last one. Margin / markup. These are two different ways of quoting, okay? I can't go heavily into it because it's going to take up too much time, and I got to try and stick to my time. I try and respect your time, guys. So, margin and markup. There are two different ways of quoting. You can use one, you can use the other, but you've got to know what the difference is. All right. Maybe this will be a different one that I'll get into. So, what I'd like you guys to do, okay, is I'd like you to, comment which one of these, 1, 2, well, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What are these, which of these 7 areas resonate the most with you, to the point that you're going to actually pick that one and do something about it. Okay. So, honestly, when I'm looking at this, I would go with, I told you, as I promised you, I got like 1 minute left that I give you the order of them. I would go, number 2 would be efficiency, as far as the types. Okay. Because that can be very different. I would say number 3 would be, crews. Because crews can be very, very different. Number 4 would be hand in hand the subs. Number 5 would be cycles of seasons. Number 6 would be margin versus markup. This one here, depending upon, this one could move itself up pretty high as well, but let's just go with 6 for now. And then we got number 7, lucky 7. Okay. So, love to know your thoughts. Hopefully this was very helpful. I will see you guys on the flip side. Make sure that you're pricing profitably. Make sure that you're being, focused on truly becoming a champion CEO. And again, this is another no bullshit podcast for contractors. This is just one area. Guys, there's so many more areas. So I want you to leave with hope, knowing that if you've gotten this far in your contracting business, that means you've gotten this far. Okay. And so that means that if you even get half of these things right, imagine where you're going to be. Imagine how much more profit you're going to have, how much more control you're going to have, how much more you're going to be able to get your profits to pay for your freedom. So I will see you guys on the flip side. Okay? Peace out. Catch ya later. Ciao.
Hey, Rockstar, I hope that you enjoyed that one. I mean, if you did like this podcast, leave a review, leave a comment. This will help us a lot to keep you bringing the gold, allowing you to delegate, dominate, and deliver so you can take your contracting business to the next level. Now, make sure you subscribe, get the latest teachings and insights, and we will see you back here for another No Bullshit podcast. No, seriously, no bullshit.